After years of teasing it, after months of speculation, SpaceX has finally lifted the curtain on Starship version 3. And it isn't a refinement of what's flown before, it's a clean sheet rocket. New booster, new ship, new engines, new pad, all of it flying together for the very first time in just a few days. The company's entire future rides on this one. America's return to the moon rides on this one. And today, we are going through every single change SpaceX revealed in detail. What makes Starship version 3 so special? Buckle up. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It? Let's dive right in. Starship updates. After months of testing, 3 static fires, a Stage 0 rebuild, and what feels like a lifetime of waiting, we finally have a launch date for Starship Flight 12. SpaceX dropped a massive update on Tuesday, and it's everything we've been hoping for. So today we're doing a complete deep dive. The launch date, the new mission profile, every single change on version 3 of Starship, how it stacks up against Flight 11, and what's making me so confident this one is more important than all the other Starship flights combined. Let's start with the headline. SpaceX is now officially targeting Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 for the debut launch of Starship version 3. The launch window opens at 22:30 UTC, which is 5:30 p.m. local Texas time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And it stays open for 90 minutes, closing at 12:43 UTC past midnight. That is a wide window, plenty of room for last-second holds and weather adjustments. Not so much for a recycle if anything pops up during the count. For that, SpaceX has backup opportunities locked in. If Tuesday slips, we have May 20th, 21st, and 22nd, then another set of windows on the 26th, 27th, and 28th. That's a lot of runway. The maritime warning published in the Navaria 4 system confirms all of it, with the trajectory now flying a more southern path, so any potential debris falls clear of inhabited areas in the Caribbean. I genuinely don't think the 19th is going to shift again. Let me explain why. On May 7th, SpaceX fired all 33 Raptor 3 engines on booster 19 at full duration and full thrust. That is 250 tons of thrust per engine times 33. That's 8,250 tons of total thrust at sea level. For comparison, the entire Saturn V produced about 3,500 tons of thrust at liftoff. We're approaching almost 3 times that, all coming out of a single booster. SpaceX released its own footage. In just a few keyframes, you can see the engine startup sequence from below. What's clear from those frames is that the stage startup is incredibly tight on Raptor 3. We're talking a few tenths of a second to bring all 33 engines online. That is aggressive. Now, why does that matter? Think about it this way. The aft end of a super heavy booster has 2 separate load paths. The inner 13 engines mounted directly to the thrust puck, that central structure element built into the aft dome. The outer 20 engines mounted to a structural ring around the perimeter, tied into the aft skirt. So when all 33 engines light, you've got 2 paths sharing the load. The puck takes the thrust from the 13 inner engines, which is roughly 3,250 tons. The outer ring takes the thrust from the 20 outer engines, around 5,000 tons. Combined, that's the 8,250 tons of force getting slammed into the base of the rocket in a few tenths of a second. Both structures have to take that hit and just shrug it off every single time. And we just saw them do exactly that on the ground for the full planned duration. That is a massive confidence builder. In a minute, I'll talk about how SpaceX is even able to start them up so fast. Stay with me. SpaceX posted that the test reached full duration and full thrust. Some folks have noted that it could technically mean full planned thrust, which might not be 100% throttle. But looking at the footage and the shockwaves, I think it was the real deal. Full throttle, full duration. Whatever number was on the test card, the rocket absolutely did not hold anything back. What do you think? Was it full throttle? Let me know below. Now let's talk about Pad 2 itself, the brand new version 3 handling expert. After the static fire, we went up in the air. We got aerial shots of the pad from the heli and from SpaceX. Take a look at the flame diverter ramp for a second. After 15 seconds of full blast inferno from 33 engines firing at sea level thrust, that diverter looks like absolutely nothing happened. No discoloration, no ablation, no nothing. It looks brand new. like it was never used. That is the kind of result you dream about as a launch infrastructure engineer. This is huge because it tells us that a properly designed traditional flame trench with an active deluge system can absolutely contain even the most powerful rocket engine fire ever lit. And that is the key requirement for rapid reuse. You can't refurbish your launch pad every few launches. The pad has to take the abuse and be ready to go again after an hour or so. Pad 2 just showed us that it's possible. The hardware is doing exactly what it was designed to do. So with the static fire completed and the launch rehearsal done on May 11th, where the full V3 stack was loaded with more than 5,000 metric tons of propellant for the very first time, what comes next? On May 12th, both stages went back to the production site. Beautiful footage from Jordan and Amy, who caught Booster 19 rolling into Mega Bay 1 and Ship 39 going into Mega Bay 2. Massive thanks to both of them. As always, make sure you check out their work on X as well. Links are below. Give them a follow. Now, SpaceX teams will inspect both stages, button up anything that needs final attention, and then it is launch time. From here to liftoff, it is a final inspection sweep, restacking at Pad 2, and the countdown. That's it. We're at the goal line. SpaceX wouldn't be moving with this kind of confidence if there were still major question marks. They've done the integration tanking test, they've done the full duration static fire, and the pad shows 0 damage. May 19th is real. Now we get to the fun part, because what's flying on May 19 isn't just an upgraded Starship. SpaceX called it a clean sheet redesign of nearly every system. Booster, ship, engines, pad, every piece of this rocket has been re-engineered. And now they've released a huge chunk of new information. Let's break it down. Here are all the changes in detail. Let's start with the with the first Super Heavy V3, also known as Booster 9T. The most obvious visual change, 3 grid fins instead of 4. Each one is 50% larger, significantly stronger, and they've been reclocked on the booster. That is actually an engineering term. It means the position around the hull has changed like the hands on a clock. They've also been lowered, and there is a reason for that. By dropping them down the body of the booster, they get less heat exposure from the upper stage's engines during hot staging. The grid fin shaft, the actuator, and the entire fixed structure have all been relocated inside the main fuel tank for protection. And the fins include a new catch point designed to support the lift and the catch operations at the tower. There are a lot of things to think about for SpaceX. Here's something most people don't think about. Every time you sign up for a service, buy something online, or even just browse the web, your personal data gets collected. There's an entire industry of companies called data brokers whose whole business model is buying and selling that information. Your information. Your name, your email, your phone number, your address. Ain't that convenient? All bundled up and sold to marketers, spam callers, or worse. The problem is getting yourself removed from these databases is a nightmare. There are hundreds of brokers, each with different opt-out procedures, and even after you submit a request, they can re-add you later. Now ain't that great? Incogni handles all of that. They send removal requests on your behalf, follow up to make sure your data actually stays deleted, and give you a dashboard to track the whole process. It runs in the background while you go about your life, and with Incogni's custom removal feature, if you find your information on an unwanted site, just send the link to Incogni and they can take care of it for you. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code Felix at incogni.com/Felix and get 60% off an annual plan. Link is in the description. Try it out today. Alright, all protected, back to Flight 12, next, the hot stage. On V2, the hot stage was a separate piece. After stage separation, it would be jettisoned to save mass during landing. On V3, the hot stage is fully integrated into the booster. It stays on for the whole flight. That means the forward dome of the booster's fuel tank is now directly exposed to the upper stage Raptor engines when they light up. SpaceX engineered around that by adding a non-structural steel layer that, combined with internal fuel tank pressure, protects the liquid methane tank during separation. It is elegant, it is lighter, it is fully reusable. The fuel transfer tube has undergone significant changes as well. That's the structure that channels cryogenic propellant from the main methane tank through the main oxygen tank down to the 33 Raptor engines. On V3, it's been completely redesigned, and it's now roughly the size of a Falcon 9 first stage. Let me say that again. The fuel feed plumbing inside the V3 booster alone is approximately the size of an entire Falcon 9 booster. That gives you a sense of the scale of this rocket and, more importantly, why it matters. Why is this so special? This new design is what enables all 33 engines to start up simultaneously. That tight startup sequence we just talked about, it is only possible because the propellant feed system can deliver mass flow to every engine essentially at once. The same redesign also enables faster and more reliable flip maneuvers, which is critical for booster recovery. There is more. The aft and thermal protection has been redesigned with propulsion and avionics tightly integrated. Large individual engine shrouds? Gone. Shielding has been added between engines and around the thrust vector control hardware on the inner 13 engines. The carbon dioxide fire suppression system removed entirely. SpaceX is betting that the new design is simply less leak-prone, and any gas that does escape goes straight into the already superheated plasma around the engines, where it's irrelevant. Less complexity and more reliability. And let's be honest, it always felt very strange that Starship needs active fire suppression systems. That is prototyping, and we're now leaving that regime behind. Oh, and the booster now has 2 physically separate connection points for fuel and oxidizer loading. Up from 1, more redundancy between the pad and the vehicle. Enjoying the ride so far? Stay tuned, we're not done yet, but welcome to the middle of the video. Well done, thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching and liking the video, and if you're among the 40% who haven't subscribed yet and there was at least one video you learned something new from, it would mean the world to me if you did. It is free and it genuinely helps more people find my channel to spread the word about spaceflight. And if you want to make my world even easier, there is only one place you'd rather be, the Why Members Club on Patreon and right here on YouTube. Click the card or the join button right here under the video. You are the reason we keep doing this. Thank you so much, you rock. Flight 12 is coming up. Ever thought of going to watch one live? Why just watch the launch when you can feel it? We are working together with the family-oriented Raptor Roost, and they have the closest public viewing of any rocket launch in the world. Boating and fishing from full-range campsites on the scenic Rio Grande included. Call 956-561-5617 to get more info. See you there. Now let's go up. Ship 39, the V3 upper stage. SpaceX described it as a clean sheet redesign of the propulsion system. And that enables 3 big things: a new Raptor startup method, increased propellant tank volume, and an improved reaction control system for in-flight steering. The aft and fluid electrical systems have all been rerouted, which is what let them delete the individual engine shrouds and the large aft closeout volume. Remember Ship 33, Flight 7, how a fire above the engines led to a flight-ending anomaly? Double floor version 2 had above the engines? Gone. Less stuff to fail, less mass to carry. The aft flap actuation underwent a fundamental change. V2 used 2 actuators per flap. V3 uses a single actuator with 3 motors per flap. Same redundancy, less mass, lower cost, and improved reliability for the return to launch site phase. The kind of mass saving you make 100 times across the vehicle, and suddenly you've added meaningful payload capacity. The Starlink test dispenser, that's the door on the side of the ship that pushes satellites out, got new actuators and inverters. Deployment speed per satellite is faster now. That matters when you're trying to push out batches of operational Starlink V3 satellites in real missions. And there is a special for that planned for Flight 12. And for long-duration flights, which is what Starship has to become to actually work as a Moon and Mars vehicle, V3 adds more efficient reaction control systems. Isolation valves for high-pressure gases, 100% vacuum jacketing coverage on the header feed system, and a high-voltage electrically actuated cryogenic recirculation system. That's a mouthful. And critically, 4 docking drogues on the leeward side of the vehicle to enable docking with other Starships, plus propellant feed connections for ship-to-ship transfer. That last part is what NASA needs for HLS. That's the in-space refueling architecture hardware finally appearing on a flight vehicle. And honestly, way more of it than I thought. Ship 39 is a huge step toward orbital refueling. Both stages got a major avionics rebuild. Approximately 60 custom avionics units that integrate batteries, inverters, and high-voltage electrical distribution into single assemblies. The whole vehicle can deliver around 9 megawatts of peak power, multi-sensor navigation for precision autonomous flight with high redundancy, new precision radio frequency sensors for measuring propellant levels in microgravity. That last one is essential because you can't transfer propellant in space if you don't know exactly how much you have. Upgraded cameras providing around 50 views across the vehicle, all powered by 480 megabits per second of redundant, low-latency Starlink connectivity. Real-time, high-speed data straight from the rocket. Man, this is exciting stuff, but it keeps getting better. Now Raptor 3, SpaceX's propulsion future. Sea-level Raptor 3 produces 250 tons force up from 230 tons force on Raptor 2. The vacuum version produces 275 tons force, up from 258. Sensors and controllers are now internally integrated and covered by engine thermal protection. That means no more individual engine shrouds on either Starship or Super Heavy. The engines don't need to be separately encapsulated anymore. All variants get a redesigned ignition system. SpaceX is moving away from separate igniters and more toward the fuel igniting simply because of pressure and heat. And the mass of each sea-level engine dropped to 1,525 kilograms from 1,630. When you account for the engine itself, the vehicle-side commodities, and the supporting hardware, SpaceX is saving approximately 1 ton per engine at the vehicle level. Across 33 booster engines plus the ship engines, that's a massive payload increase just from engine simplification. Raptor 3 is what makes the rapid startup possible. It is what makes the cleaner aft section possible. We've gone from Raptor 1 at 185 tons force to Raptor 3 at 280 on the test stand in roughly 5 years. And the thrust-to-mass ratio just keeps climbing. And finally, the pad itself, because Pad 2 is far from being a copy of Pad 1. The propellant farm has been upgraded with increased storage capacity and more pumps. That means faster vehicle filling for launch. The chopsticks on the tower are now shorter, which allows faster motion during catch operations to better track the vehicle. The main actuators have been changed from hydraulic to electromechanical for speed, redundancy, and reliability. The quick disconnect arm that feeds propellant into the Starship upper stage has been strengthened, repackaged, and now rotates farther away from the rocket during launch. The launch mount itself, completely redesigned. I mentioned the results after the 33-engine static fire earlier. Inside the mount there is the new bidirectional flame diverter, and on the top deck a flame deflector, both designed to eliminate ablation and the need for refurbishment after each launch. That's what we just saw demonstrated on the static fire pad imagery. It works. The mount quick disconnects for super heavy propellant loading have been moved to the opposite side and split into separate methane and oxygen mechanisms. More redundancy, more isolation. By the end of 2026, the plan is to have 2 operational Starship pads. Pad 2 here at Starbase and Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, which is currently getting its tower arms installed. Pad 1 at Starbase is undergoing a deep refurbishment for V3 and will likely be ready in 2027. So all of that hardware is nuts, but what is actually happening during the flight? Flight 11 back on October 13th, 2025 used Booster 15 on its second flight plus Ship 38. The mission profile was a suborbital flight with the booster doing a powered descent over the Gulf and the ship splashing down in the Indian Ocean about an hour later. Key timeline events were max Q at about T plus 1 minute and 2 seconds, MECO at around T plus 2 minutes and 32 seconds, and hot staging at about T plus 2 minutes and 40 seconds. After that, the booster performed boost back, reignited 12 of 13 inner engines, and then transitioned to landing engine configurations to test V3 booster landing techniques before a hot splashdown. Ship 38 deployed 8 Starlink simulators, did a Raptor relight in space, then re-entered and splashed down in the Indian Ocean. Flight 12 follows the same broad shape, but with critical differences. First, the vehicles. Booster 19 plus Ship 39 both flying for the very first time as V3 hardware. As a matter of fact, that's the first flight of any of these components in the air. That alone makes Flight 12 the highest stakes Starship test flight since Flight 1. Second, the launch site. Flight 11 was the last launch from Pad 1, Flight 12 is the very first launch from Pad 2. Completely new launch infrastructure supporting a launch for the first time. Third, the booster. Booster 19 will perform a controlled splashdown in the Gulf about 7 minutes after liftoff. No catch attempt. As I said, SpaceX has been explicit that because this is the first flight of a significantly redesigned vehicle, they are not going to risk the tower. It makes sense. They want clean data on how Super Heavy V3 actually flies before they try to catch one. Fourth, the Ship 39, will perform its own aquatic landing in the Indian Ocean a bit more than an hour after liftoff. And the payload is wildly different. There are 22 Starlink simulators on board, almost tripling the Flight 11 count. The first 20 are similar to what we saw before, simulating next-generation Starlink satellites. But the last two are different. They are equipped to scan Starship's heat shield and beam imagery back down to operators. And I bet you we're going to see that imagery during launch. Did you notice that SpaceX has even painted several tiles white on Starship to simulate missing tiles? This is giving the imaging satellites clear targets to work with. This is the initial architecture for inspecting your vehicle in flight before committing to a return to the launch site profile. That is very critical for reuse. Fifth, the heat shield itself. Flight 11 had multiple tiles intentionally removed for research. Flight 12 has just one tile intentionally missing to measure aerodynamic load differences on the adjacent tiles. This is the most complete heat shield SpaceX has ever flown on a test article. They are confident in it. And finally, the on-orbit experiments. A single Raptor relight in space like Flight 11. Then the structural stress maneuver on the rear flaps, plus the dynamic banking maneuver to simulate the trajectory of future return to Starbase missions. The last one is key. SpaceX is using Flight 12 to practice the actual flight profile that future caught ships will fly, even though Ship 39 itself splashes down in the ocean. Starship V2 was in a reusable configuration capable of delivering roughly 35 metric tons to low Earth orbit, even though it never did. Starship V3 in reusable configuration is targeted at more than 100 metric tons. That is nearly 3 times the payload. That is the difference between an experimental research vehicle and an operational super heavy lift launch system that can deploy next-generation Starlink satellites, deliver HLS architecture for Artemis, and start the on-orbit refueling demonstrations that everything downstream depends on. We are watching the moment Starship stops being a test program and starts becoming actual launch infrastructure. If Flight 12 lights all 33 engines, clears the tower, hot stages cleanly, and gets Ship 39 to the Indian Ocean, that is the inflection point we've been waiting for. And given what I've seen on the ground with the pad in pristine condition after a full-duration static fire, with the integrated tanking test complete, with both stages prepped and now back for final inspections, I think SpaceX is going to fly. May 19, it is happening. I can't wait for this one. The most demanding, most spectacular Starship launch ever attempted is just around the corner. And we are going to be there for every second of it. Our live stream is already up on YouTube, and I'll link it right at the end of this video. Hit that link, set your reminder, and come hang out with us on launch day. Because with everything that's new on this rocket, you are going to want to watch it live with the community. Now I want to hear from you. Of all the V3 changes we just walked through, which one are you most hyped to see in flight? The integrated hot stage, the camera view from the Starlink satellites, seeing the new heat shield perform? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's see what the Y community is most excited about. And that's it for today. Smash the like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nut store. Our all-time favorite Raptor engine design and countless others are there for you to explore. Click the card or the US or worldwide link in the description. And if you want to know how SpaceX is planning to build a self-sustained moon base in the next 10 years, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.